Hi, I'm Jay Garstecki. Welcome to Operation Fishing Freedom. Join me at Temple Bay Lodge on beautiful Eagle Lake in Ontario, Canada, as we feature Corey Shelson, our very first Canadian Armed Forces veteran.
Duty, honor, sacrifice. Every military veteran has a story to tell. Join pro anglers Jay Garstecki and Ben Olsen as they honor the stories of true American heroes on a fishing boat. The mission today is Operation Fishing Freedom. Brought to you by Great Clips.
Canada. People come from around the world to fish these majestic waters.
So what do you think today? Like, where do you want to go fishing?
I think we got a good day, some good cloud coverage here, and hopefully the fish will be biting and we could put a few big ones in the net.
For Canadian Army Captain Corey Shelson, fishing his native Canadian waters was something he did regularly growing up.
This one might be a little bit better. It's be an eater, I bet, yeah? No, maybe not.
I grew up in a small town about an hour north of Toronto. Had a pretty, I'd say, pretty normal Canadian, childhood. Came from a great home, very supportive parents. We've got a younger brother that's 4 years younger than me, Kevin. And, we grew up, doing normal Canadian stuff, like, playing hockey and fishing. Oh, here we go.
Looks like a better one.
Yeah, not bad.
Let me know if you need me to get the net for any of these.
Okay. So yeah, I grew up in Keswick. When I got into high school, as most kids do, you got to find a part-time job. Picture, you're 16 years old, working in a warehouse, really not enjoying your job, no idea what you want to do for a living. And my buddy's brother was going away and shooting guns and going on helicopter rides, and I thought that was, a heck of a lot more exciting than what I was doing. So I asked him how you signed up, and I went down to the recruiting center and filled out the paperwork. And, I spent one evening a week and one weekend a month through my final year of high school with the reserves, and just really fell in love with, to be honest, the camaraderie, the excitement of it all. You get paid to go out and shoot guns and hang out with a bunch of like-minded people. It's hard not to like that when you're that age, right? And then somewhere around grade 12, somewhere in my final year of high school, some military recruiters came to our high school and did a presentation on going to university through the military. And, that sounded pretty attractive to me. So I applied and I got in. And I ended up going to university at, you can think of it as the Canadian equivalent of West Point.
Okay.
So if you were to take West Point, United States Air Force Academy, and the United States Naval Academy and combine them into one school, Canada has that school, and it's called the Royal Military College of Canada. And that's when I transitioned into the full-time regular forces. And at that time, I had to sign a 9-year contract. So when I was 17, I signed a 9-year contract, which basically, it locked me in from 17 to 26. So this is 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Canada's already in Afghanistan, right? So when 9/11 happened, I remember walking down the halls in high school, and this history teacher that we had walked by, and he walked up in a bit of hysterics, and he said, "Guys, do you know what just happened?" And I said, "No, what just happened?" He said, 2 planes just flew into the World Trade Center. And I was like, "What's the World Trade Center?" Right, and he goes, and he didn't really answer me because he was pretty shooken up, but he said, "The world will never be the same again."
Operation Fishing Freedom is brought to you by Great Clips, Recon Boats, and by Evan Rood Outboards.
We at Operation Fishing Freedom are able to share and preserve these veteran stories thanks to our great sponsors. They rely on our YouTube subscriptions. That's where you come in. Please go to YouTube, search Operation Fishing Freedom, and click that subscribe button.
Operation Fishing Freedom Foundation is also a nonprofit organization. And while we rely heavily on our sponsors, it's the donations from viewers like you that really make a difference. Log on to our website, operationfishingfreedom.com, and click on the donate button.
Your donations are tax deductible and no donation's too small.
What's the difference between good and great? Good tries to get it right every time. Great actually does. With Clip Notes, we save your haircut details so you always get exactly the look you want. Great Clips. It's gonna be great. What's the difference between good and great? Good is when your haircut costs less. Great is when it still meets high standards. At Great Clips, you'll always get the haircut you want for less. And with our easy online check-in app, you'll save time too. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Recon. Mother Nature's fury is no match for the new Recon 2185. Setting a new standard for deep V big water fishing, the 2185 features a heavy-duty transom specifically designed to accommodate today's high-powered outboards with ample room for a kicker on either side. The 2185 boasts a superior interior with an incredible cargo capacity and the industry's best rod storage, having the capability of holding up to 21 rods over 10 feet long. The new Recon 2185, built by craftsmen, built for fishermen.
To demonstrate the uncompromising performance of Evinrude, we took to the water. Here's what real boaters had to say.
At Twin 300, it was just incredible. The acceleration, the torque, it was just effortless to drive.
It was smooth, it was powerful, it turned so responsively.
The iDock was really cool to try. I was really impressed with how easy you were able to come into the dock.
Doing the head-to-head, fuel consumption, oil consumption, hands down, the E-Tech had it.
Operation Fishing Freedom Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to documenting the lives of our military veterans.
And your donations allow us to provide education and treatment to our veterans.
Log on to our website, operationfishingfreedom.com, and click on the donate button.
For Canadian Army veteran Corey Shelson, his role in the military was about to change.
During school, I was studying engineering, and then in the summers, I would go away to various military bases and do my occupational training. And my occupation in the military was a combat engineer officer.
Okay.
Basically what that means is, as a combat engineer within the Corps, our role is to help friendly forces live, move, and fight, and then deny the same to the enemy. And I just found that to be really interesting, the ability to apply my engineering knowledge, but then also do it in an operational capacity. So, building roads, building bridges, dealing with explosives, all of those things seemed, super interesting to me. I would say in mid-2009, I was told that I was going to deploy to Afghanistan in that role. So, mainly as a project manager, the equivalent of a civilian project manager managing construction projects. And we deployed down to California. There's a training center. It's called the National Training Center in California. And all 2,500 Canadian soldiers deployed down there in the winter of 2009. I mean, if you can consider trying to get ready for Afghanistan, it's pretty hard to do that in 4 feet of snow.
Right.
And about 2 weeks before we were done that training, which would wrap up all of our training, I got called into our commanding officer's office, pretty unannounced. I think I was working on my computer at the time, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and somebody said, "Hey, has the colonel talked to you yet?" And I said, "No." Typically in the military, if you're getting called into the colonel's office, it's not for a good reason, right? So, leading up to a deployment, you have many checks and balances you have to go through, and I thought, well, I probably screwed something up. I'm either getting charged for something, or for some reason they're probably pulling me off this tour. And I got walked into the colonel's office, and another gentleman who since has become a very close friend of mine got marched in at the same time. And the colonel asked us, he said, there's been some changes, and we need you guys to take over this role, leading this combat engineer troop. And it's a big difference in terms of role, right? So take a very administrative project management role where I would have lived in Kandahar Airfield, and then in an instant, I'm now reassigned to a group that I'm expected to lead that's going to be on the front lines, dealing in combat operations every single day. Needless to say, you don't really have an option. Like, you can't say no. No, sorry, sir, I'm not going to take that role, right? Like, yes, of course I'm going to take the role, but it was definitely shook me up a bit, and it's definitely, I wouldn't say that's something that I've told people. You don't typically walk around after that and say like, wow, I'm super scared, but I was petrified.
And so, do you remember the day that you got your orders to deploy?
And as counterintuitive as this seems, my number one goal was to deploy. Right? My parents probably would shake their head like, I don't get that. Why would you want to deploy to a combat environment? Well, picture yourself being about 22 years old, getting assigned to a Reg Force combat unit and being put in charge, like legally in charge of these soldiers, and standing in front of them. And every single person in that troop has a rack of medals. And the only shiny thing on your uniform is your buttons. It's tough. So the first thing you want to do is you want to deploy. You want to get over there, you want to prove to yourself that you can do it, and you want to prove to the soldiers that you've been assigned to that you can do it, and really try and get some street credit.
Operation Fishing Freedom is brought to you by Great Clips, Yance Valor Foundation, and by St. Croix Rods.
How many muskie have been caught this week?
13.
13 this week. 0 for Corey.
If you'd like to see more behind-the-scenes footage and bonus content,
follow us on social media and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
What's the difference between good and great? Good treats you like a customer. Great treats you like a friend. From saving your haircut details and clip notes to saving you time with online check-in, Great Clips makes your life easier, just like a great friend should. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. What's the difference between good and great? Good tries to get it right every time. Great actually does. With clip notes, we save your haircut details so you always get exactly the look you want. Great Clips, it's gonna be great.
Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
Recon. Mother Nature's fury is no match for the new Recon 2185. Setting a new standard for deep V big water fishing, the 2185 features a heavy-duty transom specifically designed to accommodate today's high-powered outboards with ample room for a kicker on either side. The 2185 boasts a superior interior with an incredible cargo capacity and the industry's best rod storage, having the capability of holding up to 21 rods over 10 feet long. The new Recon 2185, built by craftsmen, built for fishermen.
To demonstrate the uncompromising performance of Evinrude, we took to the water. Here's what real boaters had to say.
That Twin 300, it was just incredible. The acceleration, the torque, it was just effortless to drive.
It was smooth, it was powerful, it turned so responsively.
The iDock was really cool to try. I was really impressed with how easy you were able to come into the dock.
Doing the head-to-head fuel consumption, oil consumption, hands down, the E-Tech had it.
Our military has sacrificed for our freedom. It's up to us to enjoy it. So get out there and enjoy the open water, the freedom of nature, the freedom to fish, and of course, the freedom to celebrate. We at TH Marine want to say thank you. As a family-owned business, we take pride in serving our veterans from transom to trolling motor since 1975.
If you're a U.S. military veteran living in Illinois, Wisconsin, or Minnesota,
log on to takeevetfishing.org to find an event near you.
Produced in association with the Yance Valor Foundation.
For Canadian Army Captain Corey Shelson, his deployment to Afghanistan came at a great cost.
The IED threat in that area of Afghanistan at that time was extreme. I mean, if it was a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 12. And on June 5th, I remember rolling into our Echo 32 Bravo's area, so led by Sergeant Goudreau. And we had done a patrol that day. We got into their camp, and around dinner time, we heard a big explosion outside the camp. Right, so you can feel the concussion, you see the smoke go up, and it wasn't more than probably a half kilometer away. Now, at the time on that tour, if an IED went off, we would typically send out a patrol to go and do like a post-blast assessment to try and figure out what happened, what can we learn from it, you know, talk to the locals. And so that night, a patrol was dispatched out, and Marty was leading it. That's what we called him, Marty. They weren't able really to get too much information, and it started getting dark, so they came back. And you know, that night we sat down and had a section dinner, and we all sat around and had a good laugh. And I had the opportunity to have a chat that night, just one-on-one with Marty. And so basically I said, Marty, like, how's it going? Like, what do you need? And he's like, honestly, you know, we're doing great. The guys are doing amazing, and I love this place. That's what he said to me. He's like, I love it here. He's like, I'm so happy I got to come back. I'm so happy I get to be here on tour. I get to help these people, and I get to go out and do this every day. And he said, you know, if I could just stay here permanently, that's what I would do. Yeah, and it was so powerful, you know, just sitting there and having that conversation with him and just kind of having that one-on-one. And then we all went to bed. And I knew that in the morning he was going to go out with a couple of the section members to go back to that spot to again kind of try and flush out what had happened and see if we could learn any lessons to help with future patrols. And I remember I woke up around 4:15 in the morning. I had to take a leak. And I walked across this combat outpost that they were living in. And on my way back from going to the washroom, I saw him. And you know, I'm half sleeping. I just walked by and I said, hey, Marty, have a good patrol. And I just slapped him on the shoulder and I went back to bed. And I wasn't on the patrol. There was nothing I could really do. I was going to be on a patrol a little later that day. And around 6 a.m., a boom went off. And I got woken up by somebody, I can't remember. And they said, hey, Corey, wake up. You know, there's been a contact. And by this point, we had been in a number of like small arm engagements, and they had started to become routine, believe it or not. So it really didn't shake me. I was like, was it you get shot at again? He's like, no, IED. And I was like, shoot. So I got up and I ran into the CP, and his serial number came across the radio. And standing beside me was his second in command, Matt Kluche. And Matt knew his serial number off by heart. And he looked at me, he's like, hey man, that's Marty. And Marty died on the helicopter to CAF during the medevac. It was crazy, you know, like 2.5 hours earlier. You know, I'm seeing this guy giving him a high five on the way out for his patrol, and now he's gone. And he stepped on an IED, and it killed him. And it really drove home, you know, how bad this place was. And that, you know, we had one hell of a long summer ahead of us.
The Treble Victor Group strives to enable ex-military leaders to achieve their full potential in the marketplace through our common values, teamwork, mentorship, and our network's connectivity.
What's the difference between good and great? Good is when your haircut costs less. Great is when it still meets high standards. At Great Clips, you'll always get the haircut you want for less. And with our easy online check-in app, you'll save time too. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. What's the difference between good and great? Good treats you like a customer. Great treats you like a friend. From saving your haircut details and clip notes to saving you time with online check-in, Great Clips makes your life easier, just like a great friend should. Great Clips, it's gonna be great.
If you're a U.S. military veteran looking for the fishing experience of a lifetime,
Nice fish.
join me, Jay Garstecki, and the Operation Fishing Freedom team as we travel to Temple Bay Lodge on beautiful Eagle Lake in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, monstrous one.
The dates are September 5th through the 12th, 2020. If you'd like more information, log on to our website, operationfishingfreedom.com, and click on the Take Me to Canada button.
J-Dog Junk Removal and Hauling.
It's a national junk removal company that franchises exclusively to vets.
The Jeep turned into a Hummer, the Hummer turned into a Wrap, the Wrap turned into a dog. Before you know it, I'm going to the VA hospital and I'm hiring veterans. And I'm like, man, this feels really good.
It's respect, integrity, and trust. And when you have a veteran that you know their work ethic, you know what they've been trained to do, you put them in our system, it's a perfect match. So the goal for us is get the unemployment rate under 1% for veterans. We're on our way.
Our military has sacrificed for our freedom. It's up to us to enjoy it. So get out there and enjoy the open water, the freedom of nature, the freedom to fish, and of course, the freedom to celebrate. We at TH Marine want to say thank you. As a family-owned business, we take pride in serving our veterans from transom to trolling motor since 1975.
If you'd like to personally thank a veteran that you saw in one of our episodes,
or nominate a veteran to be featured on a future episode,
log on to our website, operationfishingfreedom.com.
Operation Fishing Freedom is brought to you by SKB Cases, Power Pole, and by Temple Bay Lodge.
For Corey Shelson and his soldiers, their battle with the Taliban was just getting started.
So how long had you been on the ground when Marty passed away?
About 6 weeks. So we went back to Kandahar Airfield and we prepared for what's called a ramp ceremony. What a ramp ceremony is it's a parade of soldiers that line up along a route leading up to a plane. And that plane's job is to bring the fallen soldier home. It's an amazing sight to see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, Canadians, Americans, international contingents, all lining up along this runway with a massive plane at the end of it, all lit up with lights, and really giving that soldier the respect that he or she deserves to send them home. And unfortunately, that wasn't the only ramp ceremony I had to participate in. The next 6 or 8 weeks were a really brutal time for the troop and very difficult period overall on tour just because of the amount of casualty situations that we had. By mid to late June, the situation on the ground out at Combat Outpost Ballpeen had gotten pretty severe. They were, daily ambushes, daily IED finds, and on June 21st-ish, a patrol went out and it was being led by, one of my section commanders, Jimmy McNeil. And I'd gotten to know Jimmy quite well in our time leading up to tour. Him and I would become pretty close. And June 21st, they went out on an op. And unfortunately, there was an IED strike on that patrol, and it took Jimmy's life. This is a journal that I kept while I was there. And to be honest, I haven't read it since I've been home. So 23 June 2010, 59 days into the deployment. I have so much to say, but no desire to write about it. The last 2 days have been the hardest 2 days of my life. On 21 June at 7:30 in the morning, Sergeant James Patrick McNeil, one of my best friends, was killed while dealing with an IED south of Ballpeen. I've spent the past 2 days dealing with this and the loss of a best friend. It's not something I care to remember, but I know it's something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I could have stopped Jimmy from coming here. This is his 4th tour in Afghanistan, and he was on the fence about coming. He told me before we came here, the only reason he was coming was because Adam and I were in charge of the troop. He told me a few times he worried that he was worried about this tour and how he didn't think he was going to be good. It was going to be good for him. These two things he told me, they haunt me. I had the privilege of meeting Jimmy, and I'm thankful for the time we spent together. Jimmy will live within my heart forever, and he will not be forgotten. Rest in peace, brother. When a soldier would be killed overseas, when that body is flown home, Canadians started lining the highway. And they would line the overpasses on that 2-hour-long highway. And the highway, it's called Highway 401, has been named the Highway of Heroes. Canadians as a whole had really banded together in support for veterans. You know, our time here today talking about, you know, my tour, it really isn't about me. You know, I think it's important that the Canadian population and the American population realize what our soldiers did. Every single day, the soldiers in my troop somehow found it within themselves to go back out on patrol. I mean, I get it, like we were all volunteered to go there, but it doesn't change the fact that every single day you were staring down a pathway of IEDs and you had to find a way to have the courage to go out there and deal with those. I mean, if I patrolled 2 to 3 times a week, my guys were patrolling 8 to 10 to 12 times a week. And the courage that those soldiers had, the guys that I served with, I don't think I could ever come across a more courageous group of people in my life. And I think why they did it was because they knew that the best chance of everybody coming home was if they were the ones clearing the way and making sure that the routes that everybody else were going to walk on were clear. It wasn't just the soldiers in my troop. You know, as combat engineers, it was everybody else that was there. There was, you know, 3,500 soldiers on our tour and 40,000 Canadians that served in Afghanistan. And it's really important to me that their stories are shared and we're able to just honor the sacrifice they made in defending the freedoms of the people here in Canada.
I'd like to give you something that, and this can be for you, and you can always remember the guys who fought in your troop with you and those who are no longer with us. This is a St. Croix rod that was made specifically for you. It says handcrafted for Corey Shelson in appreciation for your sacrifice and service. It's got all the branches of the Canadian military and the Canadian flag there.
Oh man. Thanks, Jay, that's amazing, man.
In addition to that, I'd like to give you your very own Operation Fishing Freedom jersey that you can wear proud and remember those men who you so honorably deserve to be. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
If you'd like to personally thank a veteran that you saw in one of our episodes,
or nominate a veteran to be featured on a future episode,
log on to our website, operationfishingfreedom.com.